two versions of the gospel. You have one version that we've taken in our modern and Western world, and we've turned it into this thing that we believe, that God is this dictator and he's looking down upon us. And if you don't turn back to him, you're going to burn. Turn or burn. Sinners in the hands of an angry God. Whatever preconceived notions and ideas that you've come into church with about who God is, I beg you for a moment to push them to the side. I've got two tellings of the gospel. One is our modern Western world telling, and the other is a more patristic, more ancient telling that our early church fathers believed. They begin very much the same. God, in all of his greatness and glory, creates man. He creates him to walk with him, to fellowship with him, to be in complete communion with him. But man sinned against God. And God, in all of his holiness and greatness, could not look upon sin. And because man became sinful, God turned his back on man. And so we see it throughout the Old Testament. You see sacrifices to God to restore the relationship. But none of that works, and so God sends his son Jesus. He sends his son Jesus to restore the relationship with humanity. He sends his son Jesus to love man and to walk with him, to forever have that communion with man. And in order to do that, someone had to die. And so Jesus takes on all of the sin of humanity. He becomes wrapped in the sin of every person that has walked and will walk this earth. And God does the unthinkable because the Father is so holy and cannot look upon sin. He does the unthinkable and turns his back on Jesus. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, forever separate. But thankfully, because of this sacrifice, we have the ability to get back in relationship with God. We have the ability to walk with God and have communion with God. But if you don't turn, if you don't change, guess what? You're forever banished to hell. Some of you are like, yeah, that sounds a lot like what I think right now. Like, is that wrong? Not necessarily. But I think that there's a better version. And it starts off very much the same. You have God who creates man in the garden to walk with him, to have fellowship with him, to have communion with man, to forever be connected. But man in his pride turns their back on God. Forever creating a disillusion between God and man. But God said, no, I'll send you judges. I'll send you prophets, whatever you need so we can have this relationship back. And man said, no, I don't want judges. I don't want prophets. Send me a king. And so God says, you know what? Okay, I'll send you a king. Do you need a king? I'll give you a king. But you know what? That wasn't good enough. And we decided because of pride, because of cycle of sin and futility and death, we keep turning our back on God. And he said, enough is enough. I'm going to send my son. I've got to go down myself. I'm Jesus. I'm going to walk with you. So you've got the woman at the well. She's been with 5 husbands, and the one she's with right now, not right. Jesus said, hey, daughter, guess what? I'll walk with you. I'll be with you in your mess. You got the man who's been kicked out because he ostracized his own people, Zacchaeus. And you got Jesus who says, hey, son, I'll come sit with you at your home. Let me eat with you right now. You've got a man because of sin and death. He is paralyzed. Nobody wants anything to do with him. Nobody wants to be around him. And Jesus says, let me sit with you for a moment. You can walk. You can be healed. You're in this place and you said, I'm too messed up. I'm too broken. I'm too pushed down. God said, no, guess what? I brought you here for this moment. You said, I've been abused. I've been raped. Hey, guess what? You're not too dirty. You're not too disgusting. I went to hell. I went to death. And I'll pick you. I choose you. I want you. You don't know what I grew up in. You don't know my family life. You don't know where I've been. Yes, I do. I'm God. I love you. I'm with you every step of the way. I've failed you, God. I've lost faith in you. No, I've never lost faith in you.